HP has refreshed the Spectre x360 13T for late 2017. So are things better or just the same? I'll tell you in today's review. Stay tuned. Okay, let's talk about this Spectre x360 13T, probably one of my favorite Ultrabooks on the market, mostly because it's the perfect combination of things. You get flexibility, but you're also getting a pretty fair price. HP's always come in way cheaper than, say, Surface laptop, and they're very competitive with Dell as well. So you get a lot of good options here. It is a 360, goes into a tablet, so pretty cool stuff. And HP has been doing just an awesome job in design for the last few years, and this device is not much different. So let's talk about what's new this year. Well, primarily it's going to come down to the processor. So this is running an Intel 8th generation 8550 CPU. That's a Core i7, although you can get a Core i5 as well. You also get options for 8 gigs or 16 gigs of RAM, 256, 512, or 1 terabyte SSD, and they are using Samsung PM961s for that SSD, which is one of the best on the market. And that's not all. They've also made the bezels a little bit thinner on the display, which, by the way, comes in full HD or 4K. That's kind of a big jump, to be honest. Once you go to 4K, you're going to drop in battery life, probably about 2 to 3 hours, so just keep that in mind. But hey, I like having the choice, and so should you. They've also moved the speakers from the side of the keyboard to the back of the device. So they're still top firing, which is really nice. And like the Spectre laptop, which we reviewed recently, when you do that with the speakers, it allows the sound to bounce off the display and back at you. So while they're not quite as good as, say, the Surface Book, which are actually top firing and aimed at your ears, this gives that simulation, which I really enjoy. Another big change this year comes down to the thermals and how this laptop keeps cool. So combined with the Intel 8th generation processor, which just runs cooler, you also have a new fan system on board here, which is nice and quiet. I only really hear it when, say, the OS is being updated or you're going to run a really heavy application for long periods of time, but it is quieter and does run cooler. And you also don't quite feel as much on your lap. Don't forget, the Spectre is all metal, so it tends to transfer heat, but it's a lot better this year as well. Another big change this year comes down to its design, the physicalness of the device. And so where last year's model was more rounded, this one's more angular. And don't get me wrong, it looks really, really nice. In fact, I really enjoy the look of it. I'm just not sure why HP changed it. I was totally fine with last year's model. And I feel like they're now making changes basically for the sake of changing. And that's the exact opposite of what Dell does, which is they latch onto design and stick with it for like 3 years. And HP now is basically changing it all the time. I want a little bit more consistency here, but don't get me wrong, the late 2017 version just looks beautiful. Speaking of, you do get multiple color options. So this is the silver one, which is a little generic to me, but I get it. A lot of people like it. You also have that white backlit keyboard, which makes it a little bit hard when using those silver keys. But there's also a rose gold option, which is available from HP.com. I haven't seen that in person myself, but it looks kind of nice. And then there's my favorite, the dark ash, which if I had to give you a recommendation, it would be that one. I've used that in the 15T before, so it's basically black on the outside with gold trim. I think it looks very, very elegant. So you get those 3 choices. You can order all of them from HP directly. Okay, let's take a closer look here at the hardware. So look at this back. HP's industrial design still shining here. I love the little Spectre logo, and you can see this is the outtake vent for the cooling system. You can see the chrome hinges here in the back. There's a little bit of flex, but nothing big at all. You can also see this is that new angular design this year, and it looks pretty sharp, but again, I didn't have any complaints about last year's model, so let's take a little closer look here at the ports. So you do have a single USB 3.1 type port on the side that does have the power on there as well. Of course, you have the headphone jack, power button on the side. I don't love power buttons on the side, but this is a 2-in-1, so when you're using it as a tablet, that's why it's there versus being on the deck. It is what it is. It's also angular to match the end here. It's kind of a neat design, not too bad. And you have a micro SD slot as well. Now, I would have preferred full SD, but obviously the world is moving on, so you get micro. I don't know. Maybe you'll make use of that. You can use it for expansion, I guess. Turn to the right-hand side, you have 2 USB Type-C ports. Those are both Thunderbolt 3 and both support power. So you can plug in the adapter there or there and charge it. Just get a little LED to tell you that it's on. And if you're wondering what this is also new this year. It's a fingerprint reader, and you know, not necessary. This also has facial recognition like last year's model, but they also threw in a fingerprint reader because why not? But you can use that in tablet mode, which is kind of cool. And you can use both that and a facial recognition at the same time, so you don't need to choose one. It's always kind of nice. You also have that volume rocker, again, matching the angular design of the whole device, and that's pretty much it. All right, let's just take a look here at the bottom of the device. Overall, very, very clean design. You can see here's the intake for the fans. Really cool. You get this nice little rubber foot here. This peels off. There are 2 screws, I believe, underneath that where you can take off this panel. All you're going to really swap out those, the SSD. Everything else is soldered onto this device, so it won't be changing too much. We can also see here some speaker grills on the bottom. So this has them on the bottom and the top, again, so you can use it as a tablet mode, switches between them and gives you audio wherever you're using it. All right, let's talk about this keyboard. So as you can see, very narrow sides. They also put the home row of keys over here. Now, some people really don't like that or have an issue. I surprisingly don't. It doesn't bother me whatsoever. I can always hit the backspace. But if you're having trouble discerning the letters and everything like that, you're not alone. That's, I think, a problem with the silver version. It is a little harder to see the letters. Now, of course, you can put on the backlight, and it's just a one-way backlight, so you can kind of see the keys there. It works pretty well, but it's gonna be hard to see in light. That's maybe why I would say get the dark ash version. If you had to choose one, it's gonna be better contrast. We also have a few speakers here on the top deck, as I mentioned before, Bang & Olufsen, pretty good. It's just not a lot of bass there, so it's gonna be a very hollow sound in my opinion. It gets loud though, and I kind of like the effect. You can definitely feel it. It's just not as bassy as I would prefer. And here's HP's famous giant trackpad. I really like the size of this one. It works very well. If you want to adjust the zone here for clicking, you can do that in the synaptic setting, so that's really nice. I still prefer it to have precision, but it is what it is. It's very smooth, glass finish there. Pretty good trackpad. All right, let's talk about active pens and styluses. So this one actually comes with one in the box, saving you some money versus Surface Pro and Surface Book and anything Surface actually. So that's going to be pretty nice. Now, it is an Intrig pen, so it's the same technology as used in Surface versus Wacom. It's about 1,024 levels of pressure, which is pretty below what everybody else is using, which is either 2048 or 4096. So it's a bit of a compromise there, but it is in the box. There's also, for an extra $30, you can get their new Tilt pen, so you get tilt support. That's also a neat pen because it has USB Type-C charging on it, so you can plug in using the charger and recharge that pen. That's actually not a bad idea since these new batteries are quadruple A and they're kind of hard to find. So now you can just charge and don't worry about it. The pen also has a laser built into it, which I like lasers, so why not? You can use it for presentations. Now the pen is pretty good. I didn't really have a problem with it, but I'm definitely not an artist and I don't take very good notes, but it's pretty good for navigating the operating system and it's pretty good for jotting down things and using Screen Sketch. But if you want a high quality device for inking, well, this may not be it. You're going to probably want something with higher levels of pressure. Having said that, if you have an extra 69 bucks, you can get the Bamboo ink pen, which is a dual protocol pen. I reviewed it a few months ago, and it actually performs very well here with this device as well. Of course, you have to spend the extra money versus the free pen you get in the box. When it comes to performance, nothing too unique here. That Intel processor does very well. It's an 8550. We've seen it before on multiple devices, so it performs basically the same here. It's gonna be very good. It is quad core, but as I pointed out numerous times, that's not a 45 watt quad core, so don't expect gaming on this. You're still gonna use HD 620 for graphics or UHD 620 for graphics if you get the 4K model. While it's a nice solution for graphics, it is of course not a dedicated discrete GPU, so you're not gonna be able to really game on this. But that's okay too, because HP has been very good with supporting Thunderbolt 3, which this device does, and that's 4 PCIe lanes, which means if you have the budget, go get yourself an eGPU, plug into that, and you can game to your heart's content. Overall though, it's a really nice experience. Now, we already talked about the SSD on board here, Samsung PM961. Now, don't forget the way memory works, the higher you go, usually the faster it is. So a 512 gigabyte will probably give you the ideal speed here. You're going to get very good storage performance, so no complaints. For Wi-Fi, you're also going to get Mumio, so that's going to be the dual Wi-Fi system on here, and it's definitely better than, say, Surface Laptop with their Marvel, which I will never endorse, but overall, really good performance here for that as well. So what about battery life? Well, this is the full HD model, which is going to give you the best battery life versus the 4K one. Now HP says 16 hours, but we all know how that works. That's a video rundown test. So for real world usage, I'm getting about 8.5 hours out of this with the full HD model. If you go to 4K, probably take off 2 hours from that. And that's not a terrible experience, but obviously I think they could do a little bit better. Now, this is a very light laptop. It's lighter than Surface laptop, coming at 2.78 pounds. That's 1.26 kilograms. I can't believe I actually memorized that. And it's also a very thin device that rotates into a tablet. So you will have a little bit of a sacrifice there, but overall, pretty good battery life. It is all day, I would consider it. And it does have that USB fast charge system on there. So you're talking about 30 minutes will give you around 50% battery back. Now, one of the really neat features about this device is if you want, there's an option for the display where you can get a privacy screen feature. So we covered this with our Elite book review in 2017. And what it is, it's their digital technology that lives in the display, and you hit a little button and it masks it so that people and onlookers can't see what you're working on. It works very well and it's really neat. So this is the first consumer device to actually have that as an option. And if you work on airplanes or in public spaces, I highly recommend it, because not only does it look cool and it does its job, but you also get a higher refresh rate at 120 hertz, and that changes the game in my opinion when you start using Windows at that. Now again, you're going to take a little hit of battery life there, but they have been improving that technology, so it's not that bad. Best of all, if you want that option, it's only available in the full HD model, but it's only an extra $60, which is pretty fair in my opinion. Okay, so let's bring it all in. What do I think of the X360 13T for late 2017? Well, first of all, it needs a shorter name, but besides that fact, it's still a solid laptop. I really don't have any fundamental flaws with it. Having said that, I still think they can improve a couple things. The display is fine. I always like HP's displays, no complaints there, but I wouldn't mind seeing them go to a 3:2 aspect ratio like Surface laptop. Huawei did this with the MateBook X, and I thought it looked really stupendous there. So I'd love to see HP do that and kind of get rid of that upper and lower bezel. Now I understand some of the reasons why they keep that. A lot of people like to do productivity, want a wider display, but that's just me. Also, that trackpad, it's a good trackpad. It's Synaptics, it gets the job done. It can be better if they went with precision, so I still want HP to do that. I'm going to keep pushing them. Other than that, this laptop isn't a huge jump from last year's model, so if you have the 2016 one or early 2017, I wouldn't rush out and necessarily get this. The processor, I would say, is better. You get better performance for single core, and of course, multi-core is going to be impressive as well, but overall, it's not a huge jump. The design is also excellent, and I really enjoy the keyboard. And while the screen is a little bit wobbly, it's not a deal breaker, but keep that in mind. If that's something that bothers you, I would definitely maybe skip this one. But overall, the HP Spectre X360 is still an excellent buy. This model here is just over $1,000 that we tested, and you're going to save around $600 when you max it out with a 512 gigabytes of storage and 16 gigs of RAM when compared to the Surface laptop. That's night and day in my opinion. I don't know why you would spend that extra money unless you're just really in love with the Surface brand. But overall, HP's done a bang-up job with this laptop, and I can still give it a high recommendation. So there's our quick review of the Spectre X360 13T for late 2017. Now, if you want more information about this device, make sure you head to Windows Central, or you can check out the buy links in the description below. If you like this video, give us a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe. Thanks for watching. Take care, everybody. Refreshed the Spectre X360 13T. So I'll have the improvements. Oh, I f***ed it up again. I don't know, I'm losing my track.